Good morning. This is the 31st day of July 2025. Some say it's the 30th of July underneath. I don't know. It's the 31st because it's on today's Irish Independent. It's an absolutely excellent day here in rural Ireland. Really good. And there's a good deal of moisture on the ground, at least in the northern half of the country. So you couldn't have better weather if you tried to invent it. Now, this is the Irish Independent. And we're going to read what it says. 300,000 can't pay energy bills and more price hikes are on the way. Now, the last time I checked, there are about 2.2 million account holders for electricity in Ireland. So 300,000 would be a very sizable proportion. So it must be account holders, it means. It must be account holders. Now, I'll read it out. It's by Charlie Weston. The number of households in arrears on their energy bills, and straight away they combine gas with electricity, and they're not the same thing at all. It's a huge mistake to mention energy as gas and electricity. It has hit a record high just as network charges are set to rise. So why are network charges rising? So that the grid can accommodate and pay for all this renewable wind and solar energy, which in actual fact are net consumers of electricity when measured over one year. I've explained that to you before. If you measure the contribution over a year and measure the power they use and the power that needs to be kept running in reserve and spinning reserve and the diesel engines, you are better with no wind or solar energy at all. That's my claim. I'm ready to debate that. I'm trying to work on a formula to prove that. But how do you get a formula to show that adding nothing to something it makes it, improves it or disimproves it? How do you do that? How can you make such a formula? Like, for example, if you have a ship and it goes across the Atlantic and it carries, we'll say, iron ore, right? That's the load. That's the payload of it, right? Well, what if somebody insists you carry 600 tons of ballast or old cement blocks just to weigh it down for nothing, just to satisfy someone? It doesn't do any good. It slows up the ship a bit. How do you make a formula to measure that? It's very, very difficult. Now, there were 301,000 households, HOUSEHOLDS, households. So that's account holders essentially, in arrears on their electricity bills in May. That's out of about 2.2 million. And don't forget, out of that 2.2 million, there'd be a sizable amount of business premises. So of domestic households, that ratio would be more. So I'd say, now this is a guess, and we'll have to have a look at this a bit more in time. I'd say there's about 1.8 million domestic households, and the rest are businesses. That's only a rough guess. So that means that the proportion is far, far higher. So it's 301,000 out of 18,000. Isn't that right? So I make it 1.8 million would be 1,800,000, because a thousand's a million, isn't it? Now you'll just have to allow me here. I'm just got the paper. So it's 301 out of 1,800. That'd be 1 in 6. Now, right, we'll post underneath, but that's enormous. There were 301 households in arrears on their electricity bills in May. Another 175,000 domestic gas consumers. Well, fair play to the Independent. They did separate the two. Gas consumers were behind in their bills, according to figures obtained by Sinn Féin Mep Lynn Boylan. Good job done there, Lynn. Unfortunately, Lynn, you are an MEP. You are in a position to take up non-compliance with the SCA directive, and you refuse. So you're to blame for it. So you're the whistleblower and the cause. This is the unfortunate part about elected politicians. Why can they not read the simple directive? She's over there in the Parliament and asked the question why the directive is not complied with. It is feared now that's the directive to find out why we're building all this junk. It is feared food price inflation means families are being forced to prioritise groceries over energy bills. Now, so record numbers are arrears. This is turning the page to page 6 in there. Then they have to prioritise groceries or electricity. And you see, if they're not cutting them off from gas and electricity, well, if you're hungry, you're going to go for the bit of food, especially if your kid's hungry. The number of households in arrears on their energy bills has hit a record high, just as network charges are set to rise. So they're going to jack up the network charges again. Naturally enough, you have to have an enormous amount, maybe up to 4 times the cables, to run what's planned, than if you had none of this green junk at all. Figures obtained by Sinn Féin Mep Lynn Boylan show 301 households were in arrears on their electricity bills in May. Miss Boylan said this was a record. It is a record, yeah. Another 175 domestic gas customers are behind in their bills. Small firms are also struggling to keep up to date with their bills, so it's affecting small firms. And what about big firms? What about Wellman International? They quoted energy prices. And you have Liffey Meats and Ballyjum Stuff, who's a good industry with the beef trade. You have Liffey Meats putting up more of this stuff, while Wellman's up the road is shutting down. There could be people with relations working in households with relations, one working in Wellman's and one working in Liffey Meats. A total of 27,000 small firms were in arrears in their electricity bill in May, according to the figures provided by Miss Boylan by Energy Minister Darragh O'Brien. How did he get in there? He was voted in there. So if you folks that vote Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, this is your handiwork. This is what you have done to your friends and your neighbours. And then, of course, there's 40% that didn't vote at all. Miss Boylan said food price inflation meant families were being forced to prioritise buying groceries over paying their energy bills on time. No, that is an absolute station. That's a fact. Why doesn't she meet me? Why doesn't Sinn Féin say we're stopping the whole green energy crack and all this nonsense? Is she climate change or is she for electricity? Which? The number in arrears on electricity bills was up 64,000 on the total for April, according to calculations based on figures from the Commission for Regulation of Utilities. And that used to be the Commission for Energy Regulation. And they simply changed the name. And they changed the name of Board Planola to Commission Planola, just to make it awkward for people, try to stop you taking judicial reviews. They can't leave anything alone. They think if you change the name, that changes. Why don't they change the Garda Síochána? That'll be the next thing they'll try to do. This is the highest number of households in arrears ever, at 301,379. The previous high was April 2025, when there was 300,653, she said. Last week, Flowgas announced a 7% hike in electricity prices from next month, with more suppliers expected to follow. Expected to follow. SSE Electricity has already announced price rises. The CRU said, and this has nothing to do with fuel, nothing to do with coal, oil or gas. Nothing. If anything, you're talking about, they're only a small percentage of the price in any event. The wholesale price of electricity is only about a third of what the retail price is. The CRU said network charges for households would be going up, but it has also emerged that they are going down for data centres. So there you are. That shows you they don't care about you or me. All that bothers them is the big multinationals that will promise them some kind of job when they retire. While families struggle, energy suppliers like Flowgas continue to jack up energy prices while also raking in eye-watering profits. Well, my understanding of the wind and solar energy, they're all loss makers. John Lang had a wind farm called Glen Carbery in Tipperary, and he was making a loss. So this thing about what the prices is and what the profits is, well, you could check out with this commission, the company records office, and we can do that in time. But they still have to keep this. Miss Boylan said, Flow Gas does not report profits directly, but its parent company, DCCPL, records profits of 714 million in the year to March. Well, that's not that big a profit. Well, it's big enough, I suppose. Now, I have we Commission for Energy Regulation. What are they doing? I met them. You wouldn't believe what the mess they're at. The government will pretend like this is all outside their control. It's not outside the control. They're the ones that are mandating the renewable energy. They're the ones that are demanding it be paid in and insist that wind and solar gets the same price as the most expensive fuel in the mix. So if there's only 30 tons of coal in the mix, and it was 1,000 a ton, the wind energy and the solar gets the 1,000 price. This people, all I can do is try and tell you how you are being made idiots of. But it's not. Miss Boylan said, no, so the government will pretend that it's outside their control, but it's not outside their control, she said, adding that the CRU was preparing to increase household network charges and cut them for data centres. And they'll still vote Fianna Fáil, and they'll still vote Fine Gael, and when that doesn't work, they'll vote for independence. When the independents get in, they'll vote for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. They'll vote for them again and again and again. She said the government could easily intervene to prevent this, as happened in 2009 with a large energy user rebalancing subvention. Read that again now. She said the government could easily intervene to prevent this. Prevent what? The increase in prices. As happened in 2009, right? As far as I understand 2009, they just give a massive subsidy. They give you a credit in your bill. With the large energy user rebalancing subvention. Don't ask me. Don't ask me. They don't do they know themselves. You want to see the way that you pay for electricity. Post-ante, ex-post and ex-ante. So they pay them straight away for the wind energy, and then they balance it up to see that they have more or less. They call that ex-post and ex-ante. What? Oh, it's just deliberately done so you couldn't take them to court for ripping you off, you know. The same goes with the PSO, Public Service Obligation Levy. It might be coming down slightly, but it remains far too high for households, she said. That's the PSO levy. That's to support this thing as well. Now, just to explain to you, wind energy gets a certain feed-in price. It used to be 69 cents. It might be a bit more now. And then it gets three balancing costs. One is for the inefficiency of wind. One is to promote renewable energy, and there's another one. And that's covered by the PSO levy. Generally speaking, the amount they get paid, the renewables, just to give you the proportion, was 69. And these other three payments brought it to 76. Lynn Boylan wouldn't be smart enough. See, I have a degree. I was at national school till I was 12. Lynn Boylan wouldn't be clever enough to explain that, but you get it on real, true education, not fake news from the farmer with cows. You get a lump like that, about 69, that now will be about 75, we'll say, and you get about 9 cents per unit. That it, it's per megawatt hour. So you get about 69 euros per megawatt hour, plus about 7 added on for these extra things that are covered in the PSO levy. Have I explained that to you? We're talking about megawatt hour for wholesale. There's 1,000 units in a megawatt, household units. Now, have I explained that? And don't be telling anyone about this. I don't want everyone as smart as us. Miss Boylan also said households were shouldering a disproportionate amount compared with data centres. There you are. And the data centres have no vote, but they have the money for the election funds. And they're sexy. Oh, they're sexy. Oh, Eamon Ryan Cabbage Head. Data centres. Ireland's a hub for artificial intelligence. AI. No, that's not the artificial insemination from the cow. Yeah, we're a hub, and you'll get Darrow Breen, we're becoming a hub, and RTE will have it on the news. Oh, data centre expansion. We're so well, we're doing so well. Nobody else would have them. Storing photographs of our silly events, like a child falling into a puddle or a cat that tore up the sofa, and family. And this is all they're storing above in Dublin, and the people with no electricity up the road. That's what you get. That's what they got. And anyone that didn't vote for the Irish Freedom Party, they had the Irish Freedom Party in several constituencies and would not back them up. Every one of us that went up for election had this as a priority, and they didn't agree. They agreed to let me be the spokesman if we got elected for energy, and I knew what I was talking about. But the people said no, and it wasn't rigged. They said no. We want the corruption. We want the corruption. And the people that suffered in this want it as well. And they voted for Lynn Boylan to a degree, and Lynn Boylan still wants all this junk. So now, last week, Flow Gas said its electricity price would go up 7% from August the 25th. Standing charges and unit rates will rise. The standing charge on my bill for the farm, which I don't use a lot of electricity, it's just a water pump and electric fences and a bit of lighting, and maybe the computer, charging the computer and that. All of those things were more than my usage. The standing charge was higher than the usage. So now, they're going to rise. For a typical residential electricity customer, this will mean an increase of around 176 a year, or 10.50 a month. There is no charge to the domestic. There is no change to the domestic gas price. There is no change to the domestic gas prices. So weren't you better with gas? You see, with this carry on, it will become more viable to generate your own with a small diesel single-phase generator. It will. But then they're noisy, and there's going to be rows with neighbours having a generator running all night in your semi-detached house. But you definitely have cheaper electricity. Now, it's noisy and it's awkward, but it's going to get to that, and it probably will get to the stage where even at my farm, the way I'll do it is I'll have a battery pack, a lead-acid battery pack, an inverter, and I'll charge my batteries twice a day. But that's more time that I could be doing something else. So, Flow Gas blamed its price hike on the decision by the CRU to increase network charges. So there you are. So the Commission for Energy Regulation, Commission for Registration of Utilities, Regulation of Utilities. So it allows them building all this wiring up old hills and up gardens and out to, there's 900 acres to be covered in Galway by a solar farm. All going on the bill. There is no other source of income. When the bills are thousands of megawatts out on the North Sea, out of Donegal, it's you, the bill payer, will have to pay for that over time. And people can't get that through their thick skull. And in the next election, only about 33 people will change their vote from Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael to somebody else. And when they do, they'll change their vote to independents. And they're just put there to absorb the fallout of the lost votes to Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. That's quite obvious. They have no interest in you people at all. They're only laughing at you, those independent TDs. The Flow Gas blamed the price hike on the decision by the CRU to increase its network charges. The CRU increased network charges to €100 on the average annual bill this year. So that's what you're paying for the pylons. And some fella in EirGrid would have been, oh, I'm great, oh, I'm doing this, and we're having a hub. Oh, it's revolutionary. Neve Smith went down to the Liffey meets. Oh, this is a wonderful bit of a technology. This technology was on the go 50 years before Neve Smith was born. Wind energy is nothing new. We had one at home when I was a boy. Solar energy was being used in some places. It was a bit of an old laugh. It's good enough for electric fence up the fields. Now, so €100 on the average bill this year, with much of the money raised from this to be used for investments in infrastructure. There you are. Infrastructure that has no advantage. No matter how much of it you build, you still need the same coal, oil and gas, and you're burning the same coal, oil and gas as ever before. Derek Cassidy of price comparison site bonkers.ie. Now I had it out with him. He fails to grasp the techniques of this. He should meet me and get appraised of it, because he may know about figures, but I know about figures and electricity. Said more suppliers will probably increase their prices. In other words, more of them. And then we're told, oh, if we get more suppliers into the market, that'll bring in competition. What a load of horse manure. What a load of horse manure that is. Lies. It just gives more of them pensions and pensionable jobs, and it means they don't have to pack stores in the supermarkets. He said wholesale electricity prices had decreased since the height of the energy crisis in 2021. Would you buzz off? Would you hump off yourself? Wholesale electricity prices had decreased. Where is it decreased? It hasn't decreased. There was a spike in 2022 when it went up to nearly 800 and 900 and over 1,000 in a complete shock, where the government banned the movement of people due to the thing that I still can't mention. You get a needle up here and you wear a mask and all this stuff. You know what I'm talking about. That was a totally artificial situation. He's totally offside bringing in that. You might as well say that a family that has been successful and survived and had run a business for 100 years, and it had a fatality where one of its people was drowned out fishing, that to say that, well, there was a bit of a hitch that year, but it's going all right since. It's irrelevant. That thing with the needle up in the arm, that's nonsense. He needs to cop himself on, and he's wrong in that. He shouldn't mention that at all. Prices are steadily increasing. Don't listen to this. He said the wholesale electricity prices had decreased since the height of the energy crisis in 2022. There has been an energy crisis in 1973, worse than anything. But costs for the upkeep of the electricity grid keep rising. He's right in that, and will continue rising. Now, folks, I've dealt with that on 23 minutes. Has not everything I said come to pass? I'm waxing lyrical or raving on or shouting about this since you came on this channel. And they're going to build more. Here we are with these arrears. I've explained them to you. We're going to plaster the country with solar farms on some of the best land just because the globalists want the farmer taken out. And them farmers are going to vote Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael again. Some of them will move to independence, and they're fake. You shouldn't vote for anyone till you get a commitment to stop this nonsense. And they want to put it on the North Sea, and they want to borrow money from the financial markets in your name and build this junk out in the North Sea and connect it up to the grid and send huge amounts of fossil fuel electricity out to keep its lights on, to keep its computers going, and to keep it free from frost. So instead of we need 6,000 megawatts. We now have something like 11,000 megawatts when you include the renewables. We have the same fossil fuel that we had before we did any of this generation. And they're going to raise that to 15. In EirGrid's annual report in 2010, it said it'll go to 15,000 megawatts when we only consume 6. And to try and get over this, they build data centers all over the place and give them a special deal. And the data centers have no vote, and the idiots that goes into vote will vote for this. They'll vote for the data centre and won't vote for their own electricity, for their farms, their businesses, their homes and everything else. What is wrong with people? Is it that I'm super intelligent and I can see this? But it just frustrates me. This is basic adding, subtracting, multiplying and dividing. Now, please remember that in the recent allocation of money, the government borrows mainly, it allocated a huge amount to EirGrid DSB, allocated huge government taxpayers' funds, most of it borrowed, so that they think if they build all this junk, this copper, mined out of the ground, this aluminium and steel, that it's going to some way make us more sustainable. What is wrong with people that can't see that that's a lie? L-I-E. The grid system is only needed to get the power around. With an ordinary system, you have enough with a bit of tweaking here and there and a bit of improvement. All of this has been built for windmills and solar farms. There's no solar at night and there's no wind today, for example. It's very little. 18% output you get from a wind farm. Can nobody see that? Or what is wrong? And why can the independent TDs not see it? Why can one TD not get elected? Why can the people of Ireland not vote for one out of 158 or more TDs? Why can they not vote for one that can go into the Dáil and debate this? Isn't that a sorry situation that we're in? Why does DSB need to get a grant, a bailout, when they have a standing charge on the bill? Everything is going into electricity. Your ordinary bill for your electricity goes into electricity, and the VAT that you pay on it goes back to the company again because the government pays it back to DSB. So when you take the total amount of money awarded to EirGrid and DSB from both sources, that's both the bills and the government bailouts, it's a major part of the economy. Now, remember, one of the things they maliciously made sure that people in flats and that had pay meters. That meant that if you hadn't money in the meter, they didn't have to turn you off. I was one to campaign, do not go for pay meters, go for the bill, because you put them to the trouble of turning you off. Whereas if you have a pay meter, you're caught. So that was a malicious thing to do. Now, I understand they're going to bring the VAT back up. I remember the VAT was 25%. That's the value added tax. I think they brought it down a good bit to 9 or something. They're going to put that back up again. So you're going to, after destroying and giving you the highest electricity prices in the world, they're going to increase their take from the people that can't pay it. And if people can't pay their bills and it's not politically possible to cut them off, doesn't that mean the rest of us are going to be paying for the people that can't pay? What is wrong? I mean, when you consider, I did a degree course back in the turn of the century, and we were all able to count basic things. You go in for your groceries and they put the thing down, they put down this thing and they put down something else there in a bottle of vinegar, and you add it up and it adds up and you pay. What is it about electricity that people cannot count? What is that about? Meanwhile, the public houses are shutting up shop all over the place. They can't keep the lights on. If you decide to open your pub on a Thursday evening or on Tuesday evening, you have to break even. You have to have enough people coming in to buy a few drinks to pay your electricity bill. That used to be a problem. Down the years, there was enough left over to pay it. Now they're only opening a few days a week because they can't pay the cost of running the place. And that's in the summer. And when the winter comes in and people's cold, they won't stay there. So more pubs are going to close and more social isolation is going to occur as a result. Do you get that point, folks? Oh, what is wrong? Places to get your lunch are closing. They can't produce the food. They can't cook the roasts in the ovens. They rely on electricity and sometimes the big red cylinder of gas. Now, luckily enough, the cylinder of gas has stayed relatively stable. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they don't clamp a big tax on it. But the cylinder of gas has been relatively stable. But for most people in flats, they can't be hawking cylinders. Old people cannot hawk a bottle of butane or a bottle of propane up a stairs. And there's a lot of rooting putting it on. The cafes are closing. They're not able to make money. And they don't care. And the viciousness of Fianna Gael and Fianna Fáil, the reason I rail against them, and we were Fianna Fáil people long ago, is their viciousness. I do not like people to be vicious. The vicious disregard for the ordinary people. And my whole campaign, and people say, what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm bringing it to their attention. You're voting for the likes of Adolf Hitler, Hitler, and Joseph Stalin. And these independents that were hoped to be a change, they could have stopped this whole thing by getting together and insisting on the SCA directive be implemented before they go on. And they refuse. And one of them told me, oh, we're afraid it'll be introduced for forestry. Well, that's a different day's work. Why didn't they just do it for energy and get it assessed from engineering point of view? And you have the ESRI, Economic and Social Research Institute, telling us this is great. Even that fellow from Bonkers said the same, that, oh, there was a time because of something, wind energy wasn't available to bring down prices. Wind energy does not bring down prices. Wind energy gets the highest price in the mix. What you see here is a corrupt delusion. A corrupt delusion. A delusion that somewhere or other, the air out there, the sun and the sky, can power your country. That idea, that is absolutely stupid. They are feeble sources of energy. Both the wind and the sun comes from the sun. Oil was generated by solar heat. It stored solar energy. Coal was made by solar heat. It stored solar energy. And gas is the same. It's essentially all goes back to the sun. The only type of non-solar energy I know of is tidal. So they're all versions of solar energy. But some of them work and some of them doesn't. You might as well say that if you got a container and put a plant in it, that as the plant grows, it'll widen out the container and drive a generator. This is the baloney you get. And the nonsense you see on radio, television, Shannonside, Northern Sound, and all the rest. Folks, I'll let you go on that. This is the situation. If you want me to explain anything, it's going to go that there'll be no electricity at all. And it's going to go that there'll be no businesses. The economic catastrophe that could come from having this is unbelievable. It's destroyed Germany. They accept now it is a destroyed Germany, and I made several submissions on that 10 years ago. They accept that they got it wrong. But they won't stop. They won't stop. And the bowl Donald Trump came over, the first thing he said was, get rid of your stupid windmills. And that maybe would be something, because if he only doesn't go down the green route, his economy will do well. President Trump warned Starmer last Sunday. Your wind energy has to be heavily subsidised. They've been trying to conceal that from the public. Okay, folks, this is Independent, Irish Independent, today, the 31st of July, Thursday, and there's something else there, but this is it. Even they are beginning to see the mess that's coming over the coming winter. And then if there's any bit of a war, and thereafter, now the EU is after agreeing to buy all America's energy at 3.2 times the price. But you could have the oil and gas with the present situation, with a bit of coal and mix, and you could have this American thing. But you don't have to put these renewable junk, add-ons, passengers on it. If you didn't put on that, well, then you'd just have the fuel, which is only a part of it. And you wouldn't need this network. Can nobody see that? We'll see you back, folks. Are you all right? Now they've cajoled people not to put chimneys on their houses. No chimneys on the houses. Use heat pumps. And what do they burn? Electricity. Folks, we'll see you back. Thank you. Bye.